Esele Eko, women don't die, they return as waters. That was the first thing I heard when I stepped foot in Mama's village for the burial. They said the river called her back. Some whispered that she walked into the water herself. Others, mostly the elder women, just shook their heads. They knew the truth. Now, it's time I learned mine. My name is Ogadimma. The village is not ordinary. The women carry something ancient, powerful, silent like the river before a flood. I saw one woman, popularly known as Mama Eze, standing barefoot in the river the night Mama was buried. Her wrapper flowed like current. She dipped her hand into the water, whispered a name I couldn't hear, and the river shimmered like silver. My uncle told me not to look. He said the Esele Eko women are not like the others. Their eyes see too far and their hands reach into places where spirit dwell. But the sight was terrifying. The river was flowing with full speed like water rising after a long draft. Mama's death wasn't just death, it was a summon, a passing of mantle. And now, Ogadimma must find who she is before the river dries, before the enemy returns, before she too becomes water. The morning after Mama's burial, the air in Esele Eko felt heavier. Birds didn't sing, the river didn't move, even the leaves on the Udala trees refused to dance. They came for her at dawn, 3 women, silent, barefoot. Their wrapper were white but their eyes dark like secrets. Carrying a basket with kola nut and cowries, holding a wooden staff carved like crescent moon. Their faces marked with old tribal lines. They simply said, Mama Eze will see you now. I was led through a narrow bush path, past the sacred grove, where people only spoke of in hushed tones. They said it's where the women of Esele Eko are born, not from wounds, but from the river's breath. And there she was, standing in the river, with her feet dipped in water, eyes like mirrors, voice like rustling leaves. She didn't ask of my name. She said, your mother was the last seer. She sealed the waters with her life. You are the key she left behind. Ogadimma laughed sarcastically. Me? I have lived in the city. I wear western clothes and I do not dream of spirits. But Ogadimma was still speaking when Mama Eze pointed at the water. Look, and I saw it, my mother standing inside the river. Face calm, eyes closed. She opened her mouth, but the river pulled her down. Ogadimma screamed. Mama Eze just smiled. Your mother never truly left. She waits for you to rise. A name forgotten by mouths can still echo in the water. They took Ogadimma into Ada Shrine, a place where only women born of Esele blood are allowed to enter. The path was linked with clay pots, each one cracked, sealed, cracked again. The woman said each pot carried the spirit of an Esele ancestor. Who once said the power you stand to inherit? Mama Eze said. At the shrine, there were traced chalk marks on the floor. She asked for silence. The women around her began to hum. Deep, low, ancient. Then she turned and said, what name did your mother never call you? Ogadimma blinked. What kind of question is that? She stepped forward. The name she gave you in secret. The name she whispered when the spirit came close. The one the river knows but you do not. Her head began to spin and suddenly she remembered. She was sick with fever. Mama knelt beside her bed, pressed her lips to her ears and said softly, Obianuju, if anything happens to me, go home, Esele will know you. Obianuju, she who came in the midst of plenty. That's not the name she was raised with, but when she said it aloud, the shrine shook. The clay pot rattled, the chalk marks lit up like fireflies, and Mama Eze nodded slowly. She told the river your name. Now, Obianuju, the river will tell you the truth. The waters outside began to rise, not widely, but like someone was breathing beneath its surface. She told Obianuju to kneel down and place both hands in the water. She saw her face again, her mother, younger, stronger. She stood in the battlefield of water, holding a staff in one hand and a baby in the other hand. Ogadimma asked, who is the child? The river whispered, you, and then it was gone. The rain that night did not fall. It poured as though the sky itself had been ripped open by sorrow. The waters of Esele Eko rose beyond the river's mouth, licking the edges of the sacred grove. The sisterhood had gathered beneath the sacred moon. 7 women, robed, marked with the ashes of old oaths. They circled the child, a baby barely 1 week old. Her breath light as the mist. She has been born with the mark behind her left ear, a crescent curve just like the dream that had haunted her mother for months. The mark was no accident, it was a calling, and the sisterhood knew what must be done. Her mother Adure stood apart from the circle, trembling. She was not meant to live, whispered with fear. The river warned us. She has opened the door to what we sealed. But Adure stepped forward, clutching the baby close, her eyes red from sleepless nights, her heart thundering with defiance. She is mine, she said. I will not give her. She belongs to the water, came the response. We all did. That was when the ground began to tremble, not with thunder, but with presence. Nne-Anwu was arriving. The wind ceased, the torches died, and the groove disappeared from the shadows. Something vast began to crawl, not with limb, but with essence. The trees bent, the earth moaned, and the voice came, older than language. language colder than death. You called me, now choose. The circle broke. The women staggered back, their mouths open but voiceless. Only Adure stood her ground, her child pressed against her chest. Take me, she begged. Take me instead. But Nne Anwu does not trade. She balances. You offer the child in the womb. The river drank from her heartbeat. You do not get to unmake what you vowed. Tears streamed down Adure's face. Then let me run. There was silence, and the impossible Nne Anwu paused. The ground shivered as if the very laws of the world has been unsettled. For a brief breath, the shadow hesitated, then came a whisper. Run, and it shall cost you the circle. And Adure ran. She clutched her baby and disappeared into the storm, her feet splashing into the flood waters, her back never turning behind her. The sacred grove lit up with flames, not of fire but of betrayal. Screams rose, a wail echoed from the river. The sisterhood fell that night, not from a blade but from a choice. And Nne Anwu, dark and eternal, sank once again beneath the earth. But the depth remained, untouched, unpaid, and waiting. She was once a daughter of the water, Nnenna the flame of the circle, the one whose voice could stir the river to rest. But not all flames stay loyal to the heart. The night Adure ran with the child, the sisterhood wept. But none wept louder than Nnenna, not out of sorrow but fury. She had shamed us, she spat. She placed her child above the circle, above the vow. The others tried to hold her down to calm her, but Nnenna's heart had already turned. That night she returned to the grove alone and did what no one dared. She called Nne Anwu, no chant, no offering, only anger. I am not like them, she said into the dark. I don't fear you. The wind stilled, the air shifted, and from the ground came a voice. Then what do you seek, child of broken ash? Nnenna's eyes burned. Power, knowledge, freedom from the sisterhood. I want more than this binding life. A long silence, then a reply came. Very well, but to walk alone is to walk without protection. Nnenna agreed, and from that night, the sisterhood began to unravel. One sister drowned during a morning cleansing. Another lost her voice mid-ritual. By the seventh moon, only 4 remained, scattered and silenced. Nnenna vanished. 20 years later, the wind in Esele Eko has changed. Birds fly in odd circles. The shrine doors opened by themselves. The rivers hum a strange note. There are names the earth remembers, songs that sleep but never die. And when called the right way, even the buried dries. They did not call her by name unless they stood by the edge of life and death. Even the name was spoken in whisper. Nne Anwu, she who walks behind the river, she who remembers what was promised and what was broken. The air ticking the moment Ogadimma walked past the old shrine, the one sealed with palm ash and cowries. The village had long forgotten the songs, but the river had not. The trees bent slightly, their leaves brushing on one another. Like murmuring mouth, something was waking. She is close, came the low voice of Mama Ezi, the eldest living daughter of the sisterhood. Don't speak carelessly, child. The night is no longer yours. Ogadimma's feet heavy, as if the soil remembered what her blood had forgotten. The secret her mother left behind now string beneath her skin. Visions danced on the edge of her, and then came the shadow, not a ghost, not a spirit, but a present, ancient, vast, humming with the force of choice. Out of the palm grove came the darkened air, thick and slow like honey turned to oil. The night dimmed, not because of nightfall, but because Nne Anwu has entered the space. She was not seen, she was felt like grief in the marrow, like breath stolen mid-prayer. Why did you return, child of the one who ran? The voice came not from above, but beneath the earth, the roots, the bones. Ogadimma wanted to answer, but her mouth would not open. Instead, her chest burned with memories, not hers, but her mother's fears. The sisterhood screams, and the moment the path was broken for a daughter's life. I did not choose her, the voice said again. Soft, cold, she shows you, and now the debt must be paid. A light cracked the ground near Ogadimma's feet. Not lightning, but the ghost of something ancient. And in the flicker, she saw them. The faces of the sisterhood, drowned, watching, waiting, not angry, not at her, but bound by the one who has bargained with Nne Anwu and fled. The river began to whisper again. Mama Ezi knew what it meant. She is back, she said to the forest, so we must rise too. The shrine door, long sealed by rot and silence, cracked open. The wind changed, the birds washed. By moonlight, Mama Ezi sent word. No message, no drums, only old signs. Broken clay pieces, palm oil on doorsteps, 3 stones stacked beside a stream. By the 3rd night, they came, not many, just 3 women, each old, carrying silence like a second skin. Aboma, the one who used to sing. Anene, the one whose left hand was burned for defying the elders. And Ekema, quiet but said to have walked with spirits in the womb. They met at the shrine where vines choked memory. Mama Eze stood before them. The circle broke, she said, but its heart still beat. She lifted the sacred white chalk. Each woman came forward, and the mark returned to their foreheads, faint but glowing. And then she turned to Ogadema. She had come barefoot, eyes unsure, but the river had chosen her. She carries the seal, Aboma whispered.
Ogadema stepped forward. I don't know the chant. You will remember, they said.
Mama Eze traced the chalk on her brow. The wind growled, the shrine paused, and deep beneath the altar something shifted. A scroll wrapped in palm cloth, untouched by time. They pulled it out. Your mother wrote this, Mama Eze whispered. A map, a prophecy, a warning. That night, under a sky full of restless stars, the sisterhood stood again. 4 women in circle, water, memory, fire, spirit. And far from Esele Eko, Nnenna opened her mirror. It cracked at the corners. Let them gather, she said. Let them remember I have not forgotten. The scroll was wrapped in silence, no dust, no decay. Just palm cloth tied with single black thread. The mark of the ancestors who swore never to speak unless truly needed. Mama Eze unwrapped it slowly, her fingers trembling. She left this, Adure, your mother. The writing was not ink, it was blood mixed with ash the old way. At first, the words were hidden. As Ogadema touched the scroll, a soft glow emerged, and the script revealed itself in her mother's own hand. So the daughter who must return, it began. If you are reading this, the circle is broken, but the river remembers you. Ogadema's breath caught in her throat. Nnenna betrayed the vow. She sought Nneam, not to protect the sacred, but to take it. But no power taken in greed ever ends well. There were names on the scroll, names of 4 other daughters, hidden in different villages, kept in silence to protect the future. They are your sisters, Mama Eze whispered, eyes wide. The circle was bigger than we thought. When the river rises and the mirror cracks, gather them. The red-wristed one will come, honeyed word, poison purpose. Do not face her alone. Then at the bottom, a final line, different in tone, urgent. Only the flame can bind her again. Find the child of fire. Silence followed, no one moved. Then Aboma spoke, almost in a whisper, as if the scroll had stirred something ancient in her chest. The child of fire died, or so we thought. Mama Eze shook her head. No, she was hidden like Ogadema. Like the others, if we find her, she would finish what Adure started. Ogadema said softly, and from the shadows of the shrine, a gust of hot wind blew through the room. The scroll burned bright and turned to ash. The message has delivered itself and the war has begun. She arrived barefoot, hair in braids, voice soft like water on stone. My name is Amaka, she said, standing before Mama Eze, and I have come to take my mother's place in the sisterhood. They gasped, not because of her words, but because of her name. Amaka, the daughter of Nnenna, the one who shattered the vow, the one who fed Nneam with sacred secrets, the one who forced Adure to flee into the night. Aboma stepped forward, fury in her chest. Your mother tore us apart. I know, Amaka, lowering her gaze, but I'm not her. Her voice was calm, her tears real. But the river did not believe them. As she stood behind the shrine, the water behind her began to shun. Not gently, not in welcome, but like a wound reopening. Violent, thick, wide. Mama Eze narrowed her eyes. She said, the river knows blood. Amaka looked up. I came with truth in my hands. Ekema stepped closer. Or did you come with honeyed lies? But Ogadema saw something deeper, not just fear in Amaka's eyes, but confusion. Conflict, as if even Amaka herself don't know what led beneath her skin. That night, the shrine debated. Aboma said no. Anene wanted her tested. Ekema stayed silent, always listening to things others couldn't hear. Mama Eze said only this. She is her mother's daughter, but not yet her mother's shadow. So the trial was decided at the next moonrise. Amaka would step into the water alone. If the river accepted her, she could stay. If it rejected her, even blood could not save her. The moon rose in silence, no drums, no chants, only the hush of night and the sound of river spirits washing from the trees. Amaka stepped forward, wrapped in white, the mark of a trialist. Behind her, the sisterhood stood in half circle. Ogadema, Aboma, Anene, Ekema, and Mama Eze at the center. You enter the sacred water not to cleanse, Mama Eze intoned, but to reveal. If your heart is pure, the river will embrace. If not, it will spit you out or keep you forever. Amaka nodded once, no fear on her face. 1 foot, 2 foot, silence, no ripples, no bubbles, just stillness. Suddenly, the water boiled, not with heat, but with memory. Visions, roses like stream. Nnenna kneeling before Nnangu's shrine. Blood spilled into a silver bowl and a whispered vow. Bind my daughter to the river and to the fire beneath it. Amaka burst from beneath the surface, gasping. Her arms marked with signs that no one had carved. What did you see? Mama Eze asked. Amaka trembled, a face in the fire. It called me by another name. Which name? Omale Chanwa. The wind went still. Ekema dropped her staff. Aboma's mouth parted. Even Ogadema stepped back. That name,
She's not just Nnenna's daughter, Mama Ezi whispered. She's the blood binding itself, the knot Nnenna tied in secret. She may not be the key or the cause. As Amaka stood in the river, the water behind her parted, revealing a flame burning beneath the surface. Something old has been reawakened. It began with a tremble just after Amaka stepped out of the water. The ground beneath the shrine shivered like something ancient has stirred in its sleep. Mama Ezi clutched her staff. Ekema touched the soil and gasped. It's not over. The river is waking. That night, the dream came not just to Ogadimma but to every woman once marked by the sisterhood. They saw waves swallowing footpaths, shrine broken by water, children crying salt instead of tears, and at the center of it all, Amaka standing with her arms lifted, eyes glowing. But was she summoning the river or trying to stop it? By dawn, the shrine was flooded waist high. Fish circled the sacred stone. The birds were silent. Mama Ezi had one word on her tongue. Nne Anwu is staring. She wants balance. Abonma's part, but this is vengeance. No, said Anene, it's reckoning. Ogadimma turned to Amaka. You brought this. I don't know what I brought, Amaka said, but something inside me remembers this water and it remembers me. Beneath their feet, the river whispered old names, forgotten ones, names of those who once betrayed it. Then it spoke one final name louder than the rest. Adure. Ogadimma froze. Her mother. Mama Ezi turned to her. The river doesn't rise for one soul. It rises for unfinished oaths. A path of salt opened toward the sacred forest. The river had chosen. It was calling them in, and not all would return. The salt path led them to the mouth of Esele, the place where the water first met fire. The sky was heavy. The trees bowed in silence. They came in white, but none would leave untouched. Ogadimma stood at the edge, her feet dipped in mud. Amaka stood beside her, marked and glowing, but uncertain. Now the river no longer sang to her. It washed. Behind them, Mama Ezi whispered the final incantation, the one spoken once in every generation. Let the blood that was hidden rise. Let the name that was buried return. Then it spoke, not in words, but in a rising pool. A current that wrapped itself around Ogadimma and Amaka. Two daughters, two lines, one chosen. Amaka's mark burned but began to fade. Ogadimma's hand, bare and unmarked, began to glow. And then the river called her Obianuju. A name only her mother used. A name she had never claimed, but the river remembered. It did not choose by bloodline, it chose by soul. Mama Ezi's eyes filled with tears. It was never Amaka, she whispered. It was the one Adure tried to hide. The one born beneath a weeping moon. The prophecy had twisted because it had been tampered with. Nnenna had bound her daughter in flame. Adure had tried to protect hers in silence. But the river sees everything. Ogadimma stepped into the water fully. It parted for her. Beneath her feet, the buried scroll of old floated. The seals broke, and from the water rose not just Nne Anwu's shadow, but her full form, glowing, ancient and smiling. You have remembered, she said, and now we begin again. The water calmed, the birds returned, the sisterhood bowed, not just to Ogadimma, but to the river's will.